My parents said at dinner, "You're not half the woman your sister is." I pushed my chair back and pulled out my phone to show the email from Johns Hopkins Hospital confirming my neurosurgery residency. "You're right. I'm not half the woman she is. To be half of her, I would need to drop out of college, abandon one child, and then run away with the personal trainer." The silence that followed was the kind that makes your ears ring. My mother's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips, suspended in mid-air like time itself had frozen. My father's fork clattered against his plate, the sound echoing through their pristine dining room with its stupid crystal chandelier that cost more than my first year of college tuition. Around the table, my Aunt Margaret's eyes went wide, my Uncle Thomas choked on his water, and my grandmother actually gasped out loud. But I wasn't done. I turned my phone screen toward them, the Johns Hopkins logo gleaming in blue and gold at the top of the email. 7 years of undergraduate and medical school. 412 hours of studying per month. 93% on my board exams. 3 published research papers on pediatric brain tumors. And a recommendation letter from Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, who literally wrote the textbook on neurosurgical techniques. I set my phone down on the white tablecloth, right next to the ridiculous flower arrangement my mother had probably spent 2 hours arranging this morning. But sure, let's talk about Rebecca, who's been living in Miami for 2 years with a man who charges $60 an hour to teach rich housewives how to do squats. My mother finally found her voice, though it came out strangled. "Maya, that's completely inappropriate. Rebecca is still your sister, and she's been through a difficult time." "A difficult time?" I laughed, and it wasn't a nice sound. "Is that what we're calling abandoning your 4-year-old daughter now? A difficult time?" I looked at my father, who had gone very still in that way he did when he was in court, and knew he was losing the case. "Tell me, Dad, where's Emma sleeping tonight?" "Oh, right, in the bedroom down the hall from yours, because her mother decided that Instagram photos with her boyfriend's abs were more important than bedtime stories." The thing about growing up as the younger sister of the golden child is that you learn to keep receipts. While Rebecca was getting a new car for her 21st birthday despite flunking out of community college, I was taking the bus to my work-study job at the university library. While she was getting her credit card bills paid by Dad after she maxed them out on a trip to Cancun, I was eating ramen noodles and applying for every scholarship I could find. While she was getting a baby shower thrown by Mom despite the fact that she'd gotten pregnant after knowing her boyfriend for 3 months and had no job or prospects, I was getting a lecture about how medical school was a very expensive choice. And, "Are you sure you wouldn't prefer nursing?" But I kept my head down. I studied. I worked. I graduated summa cum laude from my undergraduate program. Got into medical school on my own merit and my own loans. Spent 4 years barely sleeping, living off coffee and protein bars, studying until my eyes burned and my hands cramped from taking notes. And through it all, every single family dinner, every holiday, every phone call, it was always Rebecca this and Rebecca that, and we're so worried about Rebecca. Never mind that I was performing surgical procedures on training models while Rebecca was performing for her Instagram followers on a beach somewhere. My Aunt Margaret, bless her, tried to salvage the situation. "Well, Maya, that's wonderful news about Johns Hopkins. We're all very proud." "Are you?" I cut her off, looking directly at my parents. "Because 90 seconds ago, I was being told I'm not half the woman my sister is. And you want to know what really gets me? This dinner was supposed to be a celebration. You told me to come over because you had exciting family news to share. I thought maybe, just maybe, for once in my life, this was about me and my acceptance to one of the top 5 neurosurgery programs in the entire country." My mother's face had gone pale, that fake spray tan she'd gotten last week now making her look jaundiced in the dining room lighting. "We didn't know you'd gotten your acceptance yet. I told you last week. I called you the minute I got the email. You said, 'That's nice, dear,' and then spent 20 minutes telling me about Rebecca's new apartment in Miami that you're helping her pay for." I picked up my phone and scrolled to my call history. October 19th, 7:32 p.m., duration 23 minutes. Want me to play you the recording? Oh wait, I don't have one. But I do have the text message I sent afterward where I said, "Can't wait to celebrate when I'm home." And you responded, "We'll see." My father cleared his throat, that courtroom voice coming out. "Maya, you're being dramatic. This isn't how we raised you to speak to your mother and me. No, you raised me to be invisible while you enabled Rebecca to destroy her life and everyone around her." I stood up, pushing my chair back so hard it almost tipped over. "So what was this exciting family news? Let me guess. Rebecca's coming home? Jake dumped her, or she dumped him, or they ran out of money, or whatever the crisis du jour is, and you want me to play nice and pretend like she didn't abandon her daughter and break Emma's heart. The look on my mother's face told me I'd hit the nail directly on the head. She arrives tomorrow, my mother said quietly. And yes, we hoped you would be understanding. Emma needs her mother. Emma needed her mother 2 years ago when Rebecca packed a suitcase and left in the middle of the night. Emma needed her mother on her 3rd birthday when she cried herself to sleep, asking why mommy didn't love her anymore. Emma needed her mother last month when she started preschool and was the only kid there without a mom to pick her up. I grabbed my coat from the back of my chair. But what Emma doesn't need is a mother who shows up when it's convenient and disappears when it's not. And what I don't need is a family who will never see me as anything but Rebecca's inferior replacement. I headed for the door, but my grandmother's voice stopped me. She was 84 years old and had been quiet through most of dinner, but when she spoke, her voice was clear and sharp. Maya, wait. I turned. She was looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Something like respect, mixed with sadness. Your grandfather would have been proud of you, she said. He was a doctor too, you know, general surgery. And he would have told you exactly what I'm telling you now. Don't let anyone, family or otherwise, make you small to make themselves feel big. My mother started to protest, but my grandmother held up a hand. Linda, be quiet. For once in your life, be quiet and listen. She turned back to me. You go be brilliant, Maya. You go save lives. And don't you dare apologize for being everything your sister refused to become. I left before anyone could see me cry. I drove back to my apartment with my grandmother's words echoing in my head and my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The acceptance email from Johns Hopkins was still open on my phone in the passenger seat, the screen timeout extending it like some kind of cosmic joke. 22 people had been selected for neurosurgery residency out of 3,476 applications nationwide. I was one of them. And my parents had used my celebration dinner to prepare me for Rebecca's return. My apartment was a studio near the hospital, small enough that I could touch both walls if I stood in the middle and stretched. The furniture was secondhand, my dishes mismatched, my mattress on the floor because I couldn't afford a bed frame yet. But it was mine. Every stick of furniture, every plate, every towel, I had paid for myself. No family money, no handouts. Just student loans that would follow me until I was 50 and pride that nobody could take away. I threw my coat on the futon and opened my laptop. My inbox had 67 unread emails, most of them from medical journals or residency program updates. But there was one from my Aunt Margaret sent 15 minutes ago. The subject line read, "I'm sorry." The email was short. Maya, I didn't know they were going to do that tonight. Your mother told me it was a celebration for you. I'm proud of you, and I hope you know that. Also, you should know that your parents gave Rebecca $42,000 last year. I know because I'm their accountant. I thought you deserved to know the truth. Love, Aunt Margaret. $42,000. I stared at that number until it blurred. $42,000 to my sister who had no job, no education, no plan, while I had been turned down for a $5,000 loan to help with my medical school application fees. My father had told me that money was tight, that the real estate market was down, that I needed to learn fiscal responsibility. And all that time, they had been sending Rebecca enough money to live on for an entire year. I opened a spreadsheet and started documenting everything. Every birthday gift, every Christmas present, every bit of financial support I could remember them giving Rebecca versus what they gave me. My 21st birthday, I got a card with $50. Rebecca's 21st birthday, a car worth $23,000. My college graduation, a dinner at Olive Garden. Rebecca's baby shower, over $6,000 in gifts and a professionally catered event at a country club. The numbers didn't lie. Over the course of our lives, my parents had invested approximately $187,000 more in Rebecca than in me. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. You embarrassed us in front of the whole family. We expect an apology. I typed back, I expect $42,000. We're both going to be disappointed. Her response came immediately. How dare you? That money was a private family matter. So is my Johns Hopkins acceptance, apparently. I blocked her number. Another text came through, this time from a number I didn't recognize. Maya, this is Rebecca. Mom gave me your number. I heard what you said at dinner. Really mature. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I took a screenshot of the text and saved it to a folder I'd been building for the last 6 months. The folder was labeled Evidence, and it contained every piece of proof I'd been collecting about Rebecca's lifestyle in Miami, while Emma sat at my parents' house wondering why her mother didn't love her. There were Instagram posts of Rebecca at expensive restaurants with Jake, at beach clubs, on a yacht. The yacht post was particularly galling because it was dated on Emma's 4th birthday, and the caption read, "Living my best life." I had reverse image searched the photos and found the yacht rental company, $1,200 for 4 hours. There were Facebook posts about couples massages, about weekend trips to Key West, about how blessed she was to have found her soulmate. Meanwhile, Emma's preschool teacher had called me 3 weeks ago because I was listed as an emergency contact. Emma had been crying during nap time, and when the teacher asked what was wrong, Emma said she was sad because she'd made a Mother's Day card at school but didn't have a mommy to give it to. The teacher had given me the card, covered in Emma's careful crayon drawings of flowers and hearts, with "I love Mommy" written in letters that got progressively smaller and more cramped as Emma ran out of space. I kept that card in my evidence folder too. The thing about being a doctor is that you learn to think systematically. You identify the problem, you gather data, you formulate a diagnosis, and then you create a treatment plan. The problem was that my family was toxic, enabling, and fundamentally unfair. The data was now quantified and documented. The diagnosis was clear. They would never change unless forced to confront the truth in a way they couldn't ignore, minimize, or explain away. And the treatment plan? That was going to require precision, timing, and absolutely zero mercy. I pulled up Rebecca's Instagram account again. Her most recent post was from 6 hours ago, a selfie with Jake at what appeared to be an airport. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to go home to remember who you really are. Excited for new beginnings. Chakra family, chakra second chances, chakra blessed." 463 likes, 37 comments, all variations of "you go girl" and "so proud of you" and "Emma is so lucky." Emma, who Rebecca hadn't mentioned in a single social media post in 2 years. I took screenshots of everything and added them to my folder. Then I did something I'd been avoiding because it felt too vindictive, too calculated. I searched for Jake's Instagram account. It was public, filled with gym selfies and motivational quotes about discipline and success. But there was one post that made my blood freeze. From 3 days ago, a photo of him with his arm around a blonde woman who definitely was not Rebecca. The caption, "Real ones know." Our new chapter. Rebecca didn't know Jake had dumped her. She thought she was coming home temporarily, that they were taking a break. But Jake had already moved on, already found someone new, and Rebecca was about to walk into my parents' house thinking she had a relationship to go back to. I could tell her, warn her, but that would be kind. And I was done being kind to people who treated me like I was worthless. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Emma. My parents had given her an old iPhone to use as basically a tablet for games and videos, and she'd figured out how to use the messaging app to send me pictures and voice memos. "Aunt Maya, Grandma says Mommy is coming home tomorrow. Will you come see me? I miss you." The voice memo that followed was Emma singing a song they'd taught her in preschool about families, her little voice off-key but enthusiastic. At the end, she said, "I made this song better. It goes, I love Aunt Maya. She's the best. She helps me when I'm sad or stressed, and even though she's super smart, she always has time for my heart." I saved the voice memo and added it to my evidence folder. Then I texted back, "I'll be there, sweetheart. I promise." Because this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about a 4-year-old girl who deserved better than parents, who would welcome back the woman who abandoned her while vilifying the woman who had been there for every nightmare, every scraped knee, every preschool concert. I opened a new document on my laptop and titled it, "The Truth About Rebecca Foster, A Comprehensive Analysis." Then I started writing. Every fact, every receipt, every text message, every social media post, every financial transaction my aunt had told me about. I wrote about the night Rebecca left, how I'd been the one who got the call from my hysterical mother at 2 a.m. because Emma had woken up crying and asking for her mommy. I wrote about the 11 times over the past 2 years that I'd driven to my parents' house to comfort Emma when she had nightmares about being abandoned. I wrote about the preschool bills I'd seen on my parents' kitchen counter, $750 a month, while Rebecca posted photos from restaurants where the entrees cost $80. I wrote until my hands cramped and my eyes burned, and the sun started coming up outside my tiny apartment window. And when I was done, I had 17 pages of single-space documentation, that told the complete, unvarnished truth about who Rebecca Foster really was. Then I formatted it professionally, added a table of contents and page numbers, and printed 3 copies on the nice resume paper I'd been saving for job applications. One for my parents, one for Rebecca, and one for me to keep, just in case anyone ever tried to claim I was lying or exaggerating or being dramatic. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. Rebecca's flight was scheduled to land at 3:15 in the afternoon. I knew this because my mother had sent a group text to the family that I'd seen before blocking her, informing everyone that there would be a welcome home gathering at 5. I wasn't invited, obviously, but that didn't matter. I had my own plans. I showed up at my parents' house at 4:30, parking down the street where my car wouldn't be immediately visible. I was wearing my nicest outfit, the one I'd bought for medical school interviews, a sharp navy suit that made me look older and more authoritative. I carried a leather portfolio that held the 3 printed copies of my documentation, plus my laptop, plus the Mother's Day card Emma had made. The house was decorated like Rebecca was returning from war, instead of from a 2-year vacation funded by my parents' money. There were balloons, a banner that read, "Welcome home," and through the window I could see my mother arranging food on the dining room table. The same dining room where, less than 24 hours ago, they'd told me I wasn't half the woman my sister was. I didn't ring the doorbell. I still had my key, the one they'd given me when I was 16 and never asked for back. I let myself in quietly, and the first person I saw was Emma, sitting on the stairs in a new dress that still had the tags on it. When she saw me, her whole face lit up. "Aunt Maya!" She ran to me and I scooped her up. This little girl who I loved more than almost anyone in the world. "Hey, Pumpkin, you look beautiful. Is this a new dress?" "Grandma bought it for when Mommy comes home. She says I have to look pretty so Mommy will want to stay." Emma's face fell slightly. "Do you think she'll want to stay this time?" My heart broke into approximately 1,000 pieces. "Sweetheart, I think your mommy loves you very much, but sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, and those choices aren't about you at all. They're about the grown-up being confused or scared or selfish." "Maya." My father's voice came from the hallway. He was wearing a suit too, like this was some kind of formal occasion. "What are you doing here?" "You weren't invited." "I know. I invited myself." I set Emma down gently. "Sweetheart, can you go play in your room for a little bit? I need to talk to Grandma and Grandpa about grown-up things." Emma nodded and ran upstairs, her new dress swishing around her legs. I waited until I heard her bedroom door close before I turned to my father. "We need to talk before Rebecca gets here. All of us. You, Mom, and me. Living room. Now." Something in my voice must have convinced him because he didn't argue. He called for my mother, who appeared from the kitchen wearing an apron and an expression of pure fury when she saw me. "You have exactly 5 minutes before I call the police and have you removed for trespassing," she said. "That's fine. I only need 3. I walked into the living room and set my portfolio on the coffee table. "Sit down. Both of you." They sat, probably more out of shock than obedience. I remained standing. "Yesterday at dinner, you told me I'm not half the woman Rebecca is. I've spent the last 24 hours thinking about that statement, and I realized you're absolutely right." I opened my portfolio and pulled out the first document. "I'm not half the woman Rebecca is. I'm exponentially better, and I can prove it." I placed the document in front of them. "This is a comprehensive analysis of Rebecca's life choices over the past 4 years compared to mine. Page 1 is financial. Over the course of our lifetimes, you have given Rebecca $187,000 more than you've given me. Last year alone, Rebecca received $42,000 from you while I was eating rice and beans and working 20-hour shifts at the hospital." My mother's face went white. "How did you—" "Aunt Margaret. She's your accountant. She thought I deserved to know the truth." I flipped to page 2. This page documents every single Instagram post Rebecca has made in the past 2 years. Fancy restaurants, beach clubs, yacht rentals, couples massages, all while Emma was here, crying herself to sleep and asking why her mommy didn't love her. I pulled out my phone and played the voice memo Emma had sent me. Her little voice singing her modified song about me echoed through the living room, and I watched my mother's eyes fill with tears. "That's what unconditional love sounds like," I said, from a 4-year-old who has learned that the only adult she can actually count on is her aunt. because her mother abandoned her and her grandparents enabled it. My father found his voice. We didn't enable anything. We were trying to keep this family together. By rewarding Rebecca's worst behavior and punishing me for succeeding, I pulled out another document. This is a timeline. Every time Rebecca failed at something, you gave her money. Every time I succeeded at something, you told me I wasn't doing enough. When she flunked out of community college, you bought her a car. When I graduated summa cum laude, you took me to Olive Garden. When she got pregnant with no job and no plan, you threw her a $6,000 baby shower. When I got into medical school, you told me I should consider nursing instead, because it was more practical. That's not fair, my mother started. What's not fair is that Emma has had to grow up thinking her mother's abandonment was somehow her fault. What's not fair is that you spent yesterday telling me I'm not good enough while planning a party for the woman who destroyed a child's sense of security. I pulled out the Mother's Day card, the one covered in Emma's crayon drawings. Emma made this at preschool 3 weeks ago. She gave it to me because she said she doesn't have a mommy to give it to. Do you understand what that means? Your granddaughter, at 4 years old, has already internalized that she's not worth staying for. My mother was crying now, but I wasn't done. I pulled out the final document, the screenshots of Jake's Instagram with the new blonde woman. This is Rebecca's boyfriend as of 3 days ago, with his new girlfriend. Rebecca doesn't know he dumped her. She thinks they're taking a break. She's about to walk into this house thinking she has a relationship to go back to in Miami. And the truth is, she has nothing. No job, no education, no partner, no plan. Just 2 parents who will give her more money and more chances while she continues to fail. I closed my portfolio. So here's what's going to happen. When Rebecca gets here, we're going to have a family meeting, a real one, where everyone tells the truth. And you're going to stop enabling her. No more money, no more bailouts, no more pretending that her choices don't have consequences. You can't dictate what we do in our own home, my father started. You're right, I can't. But I can control what I do. And if you continue to enable Rebecca at Emma's expense, I'm done. No more emergency babysitting. No more being the backup parent when Rebecca inevitably disappears again. No more relationship with me at all. I picked up my portfolio. I'm starting my residency at Johns Hopkins in 2 months. I'm going to be one of the youngest neurosurgeons in the country, and I'm going to do it without a family that treats me like I'm worthless. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Rebecca standing on the porch, 2 suitcases beside her. Decision time. I said to my parents, are we having an honest conversation, or am I leaving and never coming back? My father and mother looked at each other. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Finally, my mother nodded. Open the door, she said quietly. I opened it. Rebecca stood there in designer sunglasses and a sundress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She looked exactly the same as she had 2 years ago. Maybe a little more tan, a little more highlighted. Behind the sunglasses, I couldn't see her eyes. Maya, I didn't expect to see you here. Her voice was cool, controlled. Yeah, well, I didn't expect to spend 2 years raising your daughter while you played house in Miami. But here we are. I stepped aside. Come in, we need to talk. Rebecca walked into the house like she owned it, pulling her designer suitcases behind her with the kind of casual confidence that came from never having to face real consequences. She dropped the bags in the entryway, kicked off her expensive sandals, and looked around like she was evaluating a hotel room. Where's Emma? I want to see my daughter. She's upstairs, I said, and she'll stay there until we finish this conversation. Rebecca finally took off her sunglasses, and I saw that her eyes were red-rimmed and puffy. She'd been crying, probably on the entire flight. Good. Mom? Dad? Can you tell Maya this isn't her business? I just got home and I don't need her attitude right now. My mother, to her credit, didn't immediately jump to Rebecca's defense. She and my father remained seated on the couch, looking uncomfortable but determined. Actually, Rebecca, my father said slowly, we think Maya has a point. We need to have a serious discussion about what happens next. Rebecca's eyes widened. She looked between our parents and me, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. What's going on, Mom? Sit down, I said. I wasn't asking. She sat in the armchair across from our parents, her body language defensive, arms crossed. I remained standing, portfolio in hand. Let's start with the obvious question, I said. Why are you here, Rebecca? Because this is my home. Because I missed my family. Try again, and this time, tell the truth. Her face flushed. I don't know what you think you know, Maya, but I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of Jake with his new girlfriend. Jake broke up with you 3 days ago. He moved on immediately. You're not here because you missed us. You're here because you have nowhere else to go. Rebecca's composure cracked. You don't understand. Jake and I had problems, okay? Sometimes relationships need space. That's not space. That's a new girlfriend. He's done with you, which means the free ride is over. No more yacht rentals, no more beach clubs, no more pretending you're living some kind of glamorous lifestyle while your daughter is here, wondering why her mommy doesn't love her. I do love Emma. Rebecca stood up, her voice rising. I think about her every single day. Thinking about her isn't the same as being here for her. Loving her isn't the same as taking care of her. I pulled out the Mother's Day card. Emma made this 3 weeks ago. She gave it to me because, in her words, she doesn't have a mommy to give it to. She's 4 years old, Rebecca. 4. And she's already learned that you're not someone she can count on. Rebecca snatched the card from my hand, staring at the crayon flowers and the carefully printed letters. Tears started rolling down her face. I was going to come back. I just needed some time to figure things out. You needed 2 years? 2 years while Mom and Dad paid your bills and I picked up the pieces with Emma? I pulled out the financial documentation. Do you know how much money our parents have given you in the past 4 years? $187,000 more than they gave me. And what do you have to show for it? No degree, no job, no relationship. Just a lot of Instagram posts that prove you were living it up while your daughter suffered. My mother spoke up, her voice shaky. Rebecca, honey, we love you. But Maya is right. We've been enabling you instead of helping you. And it needs to stop. Rebecca whirled on her. You're taking her side? After everything I've been through? I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. No, I interrupted. Don't you dare try to play the victim card. I've seen your social media. I've seen the pictures of you and Jake looking thrilled and in love. You weren't trapped. You weren't abused. You were having the time of your life while Emma cried herself to sleep. You don't know what it was like. You're right. I don't. Because I was too busy getting through medical school and taking care of your daughter to have time for a relationship at all, healthy or otherwise. I moved closer to her. Here's what's going to happen now. You're going to get a job. A real job, not some Instagram influencer fantasy. You're going to start paying Mom and Dad back for at least some of the money they've given you. And you're going to be an actual mother to Emma, which means showing up consistently, not just when it's convenient. And if I don't, then I'll file for custody of Emma myself. The room went completely silent. My parents looked shocked. Rebecca looked like I'd slapped her. You can't do that, she whispered. Actually, I can. I've been documenting everything. Every time I've had to step in because you weren't here. Every preschool bill Mom and Dad have paid. Every night Emma cried for you and you weren't there. I have 2 years of evidence that you abandoned your child. And I have my Aunt Margaret ready to testify about the financial support that proves you had the means to be here, but chose not to be. Mom, Dad, you can't let her do this. My father cut her off. Rebecca, we're not going to let Maya take Emma, but we're also not going to keep enabling you to be an absent parent. You need to step up, starting now. No more money from us except for essentials for Emma. No more bailouts. You get a job within 2 weeks, or you figure out another place to live. Rebecca started crying harder. This isn't fair. You've never been this hard on Maya. Because Maya never needed it. My mother's voice rose, surprising all of us. Maya has never asked us for a dime she didn't earn. She's never abandoned anyone. She's never expected us to fix her problems. And yesterday, at dinner, we told her she wasn't half the woman you are. Do you know what that makes us? It makes us blind, and cruel, and wrong. My mother stood up and walked over to me. Maya, I'm sorry. For yesterday, for all the times we made you feel like you weren't enough. You're brilliant and strong, and you've accomplished more by 28 than most people do in a lifetime. And instead of celebrating you, we've been cleaning up Rebecca's messes and calling it love. She turned to Rebecca. You're my daughter, and I love you. But loving you means holding you accountable, starting right now. Rebecca collapsed back into the chair, sobbing. I just wanted to be happy. I thought Jake was the answer. I thought if I could just get away from the pressure and the expectations, I could figure out who I really was. And did you? I asked. Did you figure it out? She looked up at me, mascara running down her face. No. I just realized I'm really good at running away, for the first time since she'd walked in the door. I saw something real in her expression, not defiance or self-pity, but actual self-awareness. Then maybe, I said, more gently than before, it's time to stop running. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Rebecca cried for another hour after our confrontation, curled up in that armchair while my parents and I sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, she asked to see Emma. I went upstairs and found Emma sitting on her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals, looking anxious. Is Mommy here? Can I see her now? Yes, sweetheart. But I need you to understand something first. I sat down next to her. Your mommy has been gone for a long time, and that wasn't fair to you. It wasn't your fault, and it doesn't mean she doesn't love you. But things are going to be different now. She's going to be here, but she's also going to have to work really hard to be the mommy you deserve. Emma looked at me with those serious 4-year-old eyes. Will you still be here too? Even if Mommy stays? Always. I promise. I took her downstairs. The moment Rebecca saw Emma, she broke down completely. She dropped to her knees and held out her arms, and Emma ran to her. This little girl who had been abandoned but was still willing to love her mother unconditionally. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Rebecca was sobbing, holding Emma tight. Mommy made a big mistake. I should have never left you. Never. Emma pulled back and looked at her mother's face. Are you going to leave again? No, I promise, I'm staying. That's what you said last time, Emma said softly. The words hit Rebecca like a physical blow. I watched my sister's face crumple as she realized that her daughter, at 4 years old, had already learned not to trust her. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Rebecca moved into the guest room at my parents' house and started looking for work. My father used his connections to get her interviews at several entry-level positions, but her lack of degree and work history made it difficult. She finally landed a job as a receptionist at a dental office, making $38,000 a year, less than a quarter of what my parents had been giving her annually. I watched her struggle, coming home exhausted from 8-hour shifts, learning how to do laundry again, figuring out Emma's routine. There were nights when I saw her scrolling through her old Instagram posts, looking at pictures from her Miami life with an expression of longing. But she didn't run. She stayed. My parents, true to their word, cut off the financial support. They paid for Emma's essentials, but Rebecca had to budget for everything else. I watched my mother bite her tongue a dozen times when Rebecca complained about not being able to afford things, watched my father resist the urge to hand her money when she looked stressed. Meanwhile, I prepared for my residency. The program director at Johns Hopkins called me personally to welcome me and discuss my first rotation. I would be starting in pediatric neurosurgery, my area of interest, working under Dr. Okonkwo herself. It was everything I'd worked for, finally within reach. But I couldn't fully celebrate until I knew Emma was safe. 3 weeks after Rebecca's return, I came by for dinner and found Emma doing homework at the kitchen table while Rebecca made dinner. Actual homemade dinner, not takeout or something my mother had prepared. It was just spaghetti and jarred sauce, but it was something. Aunt Maya! Emma jumped up to hug me. Guess what? Mommy took me to the park today after her work, and we went on the swings and she pushed me really high. I looked at Rebecca, who gave me a tired smile. Small victories, right? After Emma went to bed, Rebecca and I sat on the back porch with coffee. It was early December now, cold enough that we needed blankets, but neither of us wanted to go inside yet. I hate you sometimes, Rebecca said suddenly. For being right, for having your life together, for being everything I'm not. I know, I replied, but I'm also grateful. Because if you hadn't called me out, I would have just kept running. And eventually, Emma would have stopped giving me chances. She took a sip of coffee. She's warming up to me, slowly. Last night, she asked if I would read her a bedtime story. It was the first time since I've been back that she's asked for me specifically. That's good. That's really good, Rebecca. She looked at me. I saw Jake's Instagram the other day. Him with that blonde girl. They're engaged now. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right about him too. He was never going to marry me. I was just convenient until something better came along. She laughed bitterly. Meanwhile, you're about to become a world-class neurosurgeon. The irony isn't lost on me. It's not a competition, Rebecca. Isn't it, though? Hasn't our whole life been a competition? Me trying to be the favorite? You trying to be acknowledged at all? She set down her coffee mug. I was the golden child because I was failing. Did you ever realize that? Mom and Dad gave me all that attention and money because deep down, they knew I was a mess and you weren't. You didn't need them. I did. And they enabled me because it was easier than making me face reality. It was the most self-aware thing I'd ever heard her say. What are you going to do now? I asked. Keep showing up. Keep trying. Maybe take some online classes and finally get a degree. Be a mother. She looked toward the house, where Emma was sleeping in the room that used to be mine, and try to earn back my daughter's trust. Even though I don't deserve it. Everyone deserves a second chance, Rebecca. But not a third or fourth or fifth. This is it. If you run again, I'm filing for custody and I will win. I know. And honestly, if I run again, I hope you do. Because Emma deserves better than a mother who can't commit to her own child. 2 months later, I moved to Baltimore permanently for my residency. The day I left, Emma cried and made me promise to visit every weekend. Rebecca hugged me, which was surprising, and whispered, "Thank you for not letting me destroy my daughter's life." My parents threw me a real celebration this time. Just family, but they acknowledged my achievement properly. My father gave a toast about being proud of my determination. My mother gave me a card with a check inside, $10,000 toward my student loans with a note that said, "We should have done this years ago. We're sorry." It wasn't enough to make up for the disparity, but it was acknowledgement. My grandmother pulled me aside before I left. "You did good, Maya. You saved your sister even though she didn't deserve it. That takes strength." "I didn't do it for her," I admitted. "I did it for Emma." "I know. That's what makes it even better." My first year of residency at Johns Hopkins was exactly as brutal as everyone warned me it would be. 100-hour weeks, life and death decisions, surgeries that lasted 12 hours, attending physicians who made me question whether I was smart enough to be there. But I thrived. Every successful procedure, every patient I helped save, every compliment from Dr. Okonkwo made the exhaustion worth it. Rebecca kept her promise. She showed up for Emma every single day. She got promoted at the dental office to office manager. She enrolled in online classes to finish her associate's degree. She dated occasionally, but nothing serious, keeping her focus on rebuilding her relationship with her daughter. Emma flourished. Her preschool teachers reported that she was more confident, more settled. She still called me every Sunday, but now she also talked about things she did with her mommy. Birthday parties Rebecca planned, bedtime stories Rebecca read, school projects they worked on together. My parents learned their lesson too. They stopped enabling and started supporting properly. When Rebecca's car broke down, they didn't buy her a new one. They co-signed a loan she had to pay back herself. When she struggled with childcare costs, they didn't hand her cash. They offered to babysit Emma themselves and helped Rebecca apply for assistance programs. I visited every few weeks, and each time I saw the progress. Rebecca looked different, less polished, more genuine. She wore her hair natural instead of highlighted. She shopped at Target instead of boutiques. She drove a 10-year-old Honda instead of expecting luxury. And she seemed happier than I'd ever seen her in Miami, even though she had a fraction of the material things. One Sunday in October, a year after our confrontation, the whole family gathered for Emma's 5th birthday. Rebecca had thrown her a party at the house. Simple decorations, homemade cake, Emma's friends from kindergarten running around the backyard. As I watched Emma blow out her candles with Rebecca beside her, helping her make a wish, I realized that my revenge had never been about destroying my sister. It had been about saving my niece and forcing my family to see reality. Rebecca caught me watching and came over while Emma opened presents. "I paid back $15,000 to Mom and Dad this year," she said quietly. "I'm on a payment plan for the rest. It'll take me about 8 years total." "That's good, Rebecca. I want to pay you back too, for all the times you stepped in for Emma. I know you spent your own money on her." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. Not because you'll take Emma if I don't, but because it's the right thing to do." She looked at her daughter, who was laughing with her friends. "I could have lost her forever because I was selfish and stupid. You could have let that happen. Instead, you gave me the hardest truth I'd ever heard, and it saved my life." "It saved Emma's life," I corrected. "That too," she smiled. "You're going to be an amazing neurosurgeon, Maya. You already are. And for what it's worth, I'm proud to be your sister. Even if I spent most of my life not deserving you." Later, after the party, as I was getting ready to drive back to Baltimore, Emma ran up and handed me a drawing she'd made. It was our family, stick figures holding hands. Me, her, Rebecca, and our parents. At the top, in careful kindergarten handwriting, it said, "My family." "You spelled family wrong, pumpkin," I said, smiling. "I know, but Miss Jensen says it's okay because I tried my best. And Mommy says trying your best is what matters." I looked at Rebecca, who was cleaning up paper plates and wrapping up leftover cake. She met my eyes and nodded, some understanding passing between us. She was trying her best now. Finally. And maybe that was enough. As I drove back to Baltimore that night, I thought about revenge, how people expected it to be dramatic and destructive. But the best revenge I ever got wasn't destroying my sister or cutting off my parents. It was forcing them all to see the truth and holding them accountable until they became the people they should have been all along. Rebecca was a decent mother now. My parents were fair, and Emma was thriving. I didn't need them to grovel or suffer. I needed them to be better, and because I refused to accept anything less, they were. 6 months later, I successfully completed my first solo pediatric brain tumor resection. Dr. Okonkwo called me into her office afterward and said, "That was exceptional work, Dr. Foster. You have a real gift." That night, I called my family to share the news. My parents congratulated me enthusiastically. Rebecca sent me a video of Emma shouting, "My Aunt Maya is the best doctor in the whole world." And my grandmother, now 85, left me a voicemail that simply said, "Your grandfather would be so proud. I am too." I saved that voicemail, added it to my evidence folder, though I'd renamed it now. Instead of evidence, it was called progress, because that's what we all were now, works in progress. Imperfect, flawed, but trying. And sometimes that's the best revenge of all. Not destroying the people who hurt you, but forcing them to become better, and then succeeding so completely that their past treatment of you becomes the source of their shame, rather than your pain. I was Dr. Maya Foster, 29 years old, a neurosurgery resident at Johns Hopkins Hospital. I wasn't half the woman my sister was. I was exactly who I was supposed to be. Brilliant, strong, uncompromising, and finally, genuinely happy.